Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and 2015 is officially over, which means it's time to talk about my favorite movies of the year. Now, I was actually planning to do this video before the new year, but I ended up being really busy and I wasn't able to, and then when I was finally able to, I got sick. So now I'm semi-better, which is why my voice doesn't sound so great. You'll probably hear me sniffling throughout the video. Either way, I'm really excited to do this video because I get to talk about movies that I wasn't able to review throughout the year, and I probably get to talk about those, which is going to be a lot of fun. So let's start out with an honorable mention. Now, this honorable mention isn't as much for the movie as much as it is for the main actor's performance in it, and that is Black Mass. This is a really good mob movie. If you like mob movies like I really do, you're going to like this one. It's definitely worth it. It's really good. But I promise it just doesn't have that extra punch to make it great. It's a little cliche and it has some issues. You walk out of it going, yeah, that was really good, and that's about it. Though what stands out the most about it is Johnny Depp's performance, which is just amazing. It's one of my favorite performances of 2015. I thought he was just great in the part, just sinister, intimidating, but also funny at times, just awesome. And it's just so great finally seeing Johnny Depp care in a movie, which we haven't seen in a long time, especially considering this came out the same year as Mordecai, which was just atrociously bad. That was awful. It's so great seeing him back on form, just giving an awesome performance, and that's definitely the best aspect about this movie and the most memorable part of it. So moving on to my actual list, starting with number 10, Steven Spielberg, you still got it. Bridge of Spies was such a compelling movie. From the acting to the directing to the story in general, it was just great through and through. What I loved about it, I loved Tom Hanks' performance. And I mean, he's Tom Hanks, so of course he's going to be good. But his performance is just the everyman. He just feels out of his element, but is able to overcome all the problems to get this whole thing together was just amazing. And the story itself, this is a historical event that I had actually never heard of before seeing this movie. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know this ever happened. And so it was really interesting to watch the story unfold in the film. And I love the first half of it being this courtroom drama where you're right in the middle of the Cold War and this lawyer has to defend a Soviet spy. How does he do that? It's such an interesting story. It's like its own little mini movie in the first half. And then when the big thing happens where one of our spies gets captured by the Russians and Hanks has to go negotiate a trade, was just so interesting seeing him have to go back and forth between all these people to get everything negotiated. This is a really talky movie, but not overly. This is kind of a middle ground for Spielberg. It's not like Lincoln where it's completely talky, and it's not like his other movies where it's more action-y. It's very in between. It's very well paced, but it's still a movie just about people talking, but it's all compelling. Number 9. This movie shows that you can have movies about subjects that you don't even like, but if they're great, you'll like the movie either way, and that is Straight Outta Compton. Now, going into this movie, honestly, I'm not big into music. I don't listen to a whole lot of music in general. I don't care for rap music, and I can care less about NWA. I saw this movie twice in theaters. It was that good. This movie just surprised me. It's a very good story, very well done biopic that is able to take this big cast of characters, but give enough screen time to each of them. All the acting is great. There's some standout performances, especially by the actor who plays Eazy-E. I don't know his name, but he does a great job in the movie. And I love how the movie is able to balance out its main characters. This movie is about Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and Ice Cube, but it never gets too bottled up in one act or one character. So the movie never becomes the Eazy-E movie or the Dr. Dre movie. Every character gets their moment to shine, and it feels well balanced. You'll have like a 20-minute segment that focuses all on Ice Cube, and just when you think the movie's getting too Ice Cube centric, it moves off of him and focuses on Dr. Dre, and Ice Cube kind of gets put to the side. But you never feel like he gets lost in the movie, if that makes any sense. It's just the balancing of the characters was very well done. It was just very compelling, from the characters to the events to what they go through to how they start out very small and end up getting really big. It was just so engaging from start to finish, even in its 2.5-hour runtime, that I honestly can't wait to see it again when it comes out on DVD, and I never thought I'd say that for something like this. I'm like the last person you'd expect to actually have seen this movie in general. Number 8. Director Ridley Scott can be very hit or miss lately. Sometimes he'll have a really good movie, and then next time he'll give us an Exodus, Gods and Kings. Luckily this year was a hit for him, and he gave us The Martian, which was so amazing. the performances by Matt Damon and the rest of the cast of this movie was huge, is great. The story was very good, and even the humor in it was very well done. There's a lot of humor in this movie, which is surprising, but the humor never overshadows the seriousness of the story. The movie never turns into a comedy, but the movie never gets too dark to where it's depressing about this guy who's stuck on Mars. It's a unique, uplifting story about survival, not a typical somebody stuck in a bad situation. This is a dude stuck on Mars, and he has to find a way to get back, and it's very uplifting and very fun while still being serious and dramatic. It had a great balance of that. Number 7. This movie is actually Sam's favorite movie of the year, and it's from the creators of his favorite TV show, Flight of the Conchords. I am talking about What We Do in the Shadows. A great mockumentary horror comedy spoof movie that is just hilarious. It's so much fun. For those of you who don't know, because this isn't as big of a movie, it's a mockumentary about this group of vampires living in New Zealand, and it just basically goes through their life leading up to this big event that they're going to. And it's so funny. It plays on all the vampire cliches. They have to be invited into places, so you see them standing outside clubs just being can we come in? Can we come in here? And just a lot of jokes like that. The opening shot of the movie is an alarm clock going off and then a hand reaching out of a coffin to turn it off. It's a perfect indication of what the rest of this movie is going to be, and it's just a blast. It's very funny. The jokes are great. The acting is hilarious from all the main guys. It's a funny, unique take on vampires that respects all the vampire lore and respects all the stuff that came before it, but still does its own thing and is hilarious from start to finish. And one of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. Just great. Check it out. It's not as big of a movie, so a lot of you might not have seen it, but if you haven't, please check it out. It's great. Number 6. After 19 years, it's surprising that this franchise is still going strong and still giving us great movies. And I'm talking about Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I love the Mission Impossible series, well, aside from number 2, that's a piece of crap. But aside from that one, I love the series, and Ghost Protocol just surprised the hell out of me when I first saw it. It's just an amazing movie, and I was like, there's no way you can top this. And granted, Rogue Nation doesn't top it. It comes very close. It is this close to topping the movie. There's a lot of great sequences in this film. A lot of suspense. This movie isn't just explosions. You watch the trailer and you see car chases and stuff like that. That's not all this movie is. There's a lot of suspense. There's a very intriguing story. Good villain. Not the best. Mission Impossible has never had the best villains, but this one's cool. He's very menacing and just sinister. And it's very well directed. The motorcycle chase in this movie is one of the best motorcycle chases I've seen in a while. The whole scene in the opera house. Very suspenseful, very well done with the use of the music in the background and the use of the sets. Whereas Tom Cruise is on these platforms right about to fight the bad guy, and Simon Pegg will hit a button on accident and it'll go up. And all that stuff like that is just very well done. That makes this movie stand out from most action spy thrillers, because this one really paid a lot of attention to the story, but also to the suspense and to the sequences and to all the build-up. That's very well done, and that awesome stunt at the beginning with Tom Cruise hanging onto an airplane for real as it flies up in the air is amazing, and I love how that's not even the best scene in the movie. That's just a teaser for what's to come. And that just shows you how great the movie is if the standout stunt, the thing that everybody is talking about for the movie, is just the teaser of what to come. Just all around, I loved it and was pleasantly surprised that they were able to follow up Ghost Protocol with such a solid film and something that didn't disappoint at all. Number 5. This movie just came out of nowhere. The trailers were crap. I had really no interest in seeing it. Then I saw it, and I loved it. Kingsman, The Secret Service. Where did this come from? The trailers looked like very generic spy movie crap, but this movie is such a fun play on the spy genre, such a unique play on it. It's self-aware, it makes jokes about spy movies. That amazing scene between Colin Firth and Samuel Jackson where they're discussing the old Bond movies, and he's like, you like spy movies? Just yeah, though they're getting a little too serious nowadays for my taste. I like the big cheesy Bond movies. And this movie is just wild. The best way to describe this movie, it's an R-rated Roger Moore James Bond movie. Because there's elements in this movie straight out of a Roger Moore Bond film. There's a scene where a person has to go into space to shoot down a satellite. Just ridiculous stuff like that you don't normally see in movies nowadays because everything's trying to be so serious. This one just says, screw it, let's just do whatever we want and have a blast with it. There's so many crazy sequences in this. You got, of course, the massacre at the church, which is one of the best sequences in a movie this year. Just total insanity. You have great characters, a surprising performance by Colin Firth, who's not his normal type of character. Samuel L. Jackson playing the villain with the lisp, just why not? And a breakout performance by the actor playing Eggsy. Just a ton of fun. This is the one movie I keep recommending to people. Like, throughout this year, since I saw it back in February, which is crazy, this movie came out in February, which is a dumping ground for movies, but surprisingly we got this one. I've been recommending it to people since then, just saying, you gotta see Kingsman. I actually saw this movie for a second time the week after the first time I saw it. I literally just went the next weekend to see it again because I liked it so much. Just such an awesome movie. Number 4. This is a movie experience I'm not going to forget. Seeing this movie in 70mm, projected on film, with an overture in the opening and an intermission in the middle, is something I never thought I experienced in theaters for a new movie. I am, of course, talking about the new film by Quentin Tarantino, The Hateful Eight. This theater experience was just so unique and so awesome. Just, it felt like an event, seeing an old school roadshow presentation of a movie, even getting a program in the beginning of it. Like, what movie do you go to where you get a program for it? But the theater experience aside, which was just incredible, the movie itself is another great film from Tarantino. From the characters to just the unpredictability of it. This whole movie is basically just people in a cabin, and I loved it. The feel of isolation, almost like The Thing, which is what he was taking a lot of inspiration from. And speaking of The Thing, this movie had an original score by Ennio Morricone, who did the score for The Thing, but more importantly did a score for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and the whole Mountain No Name trilogy, basically, of the old Clint Eastwood films. This was his first original score in many years. All the performances in this movie were great. Samuel L. Jackson, who, yeah, is awesome in a lot of stuff, of course, because he's Samuel L. Jackson, really stands out in this one. And he has a monologue that, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. That monologue was just amazing. Seeing Kurt Russell in this was great, too. It was just awesome. I love the mystery of this movie, like somebody's working in cahoots with the prisoner. Who could it be? And just the build-up to that was just great, and it was engaging. The first half of this movie, not a lot happens. It's just a lot of talking. And it's that typical Tarantino writing where you're engaged, even if it's just talking. And I know a lot of people complain that this movie was slow. I know there's a lot of people that don't like this movie. And I can kind of see where you're coming from, because the first half is slow, but I found the characters and the dialogue so engaging that I didn't care, and I didn't have a problem with it. If you have a chance to see the 70mm roadshow version of this movie, definitely do it. It's so worth it. It's such a unique experience, and something that, even if this movie wasn't that great, I would still remember it fondly for that experience alone. It was so awesome. Number 3. A return to a franchise that we all thought was over, and I was very skeptical about coming back to, but it paid off amazingly. I'm talking about Creed. Now, I'm a huge Rocky fan. I love the movies. I love the character. These movies are very near and dear to me, and I was okay with the idea of a spin-off, actually. I like the idea of this new story about this new character, but we get to see Rocky again, because he's the trainer this time. I'm like, oh, okay, that'd be fun. I just didn't want it to undo the happy ending of Rocky Balboa, which was a perfect send-off to the character. And you know what? This movie does undo that happy ending. Especially with what happens to Rocky in this movie, it completely undoes that happy ending. But you know what? I don't care now, because the movie was so amazing that I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's fine with me. It handled everything so well. It was a great movie on its own, and a great tribute to the Rocky franchise, while still having Stallone in it, who gave an amazing performance. His best performance in years, and I really hope he gets a lot of awards for it. Just, he was the standout. Michael B. Jordan was great as Adonis Creed, and Ryan Coogler is definitely going places after this movie, because he knocked it out of the park. His direction in this film was amazing. This is one of the best directed movies I've seen this year. From the boxing matches and the camera work in there, to the one boxing match where it's all one shot, to even the final boxing match, which is one of the most intense boxing matches I've seen on film. And just brilliantly directed and just so well done. And music in this movie is amazing. One of the things I mentioned in my review was that the music is great, but I said I don't think it'll live on as much as the Rocky theme. I'm kind of regretting that statement right now because I saw the movie again in theaters last week, actually, and when I got out, I was super pumped. I just had so much energy for the rest of the night, and the theme from the movie, Adonis's theme in the movie, was stuck in my head that entire night. Just all the elements came together, and I love this movie. I wasn't expecting it to love it as much as I did. I was hoping to like it because I love Rocky, but I can't believe I love this movie as much as I did. It's my favorite Rocky film next to the original, which is crazy and just an amazing film. Really is. Number 2. I had a hard time picking my number 1 and 2. I had the two movies set. I just couldn't decide where to place them. But I'm going with this as number 2, even though they're both great films. But number 2, easily the most anticipated movie of the past few years since it was announced back in 2012. And that is, of course, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Thank God this movie was great. That's all we wanted, was a good Star Wars movie, and we got it. Sure, it has some flaws. Sure, it recycles a lot of plot from A New Hope, and not as original, and it does rely on a lot of nostalgia, but that's all we really needed at this point. We really needed a reminder of how great Star Wars used to be, and how great it can be moving forward from this, because whereas this movie was a great nostalgia fest, introduced new characters that we want to see grow as the series progresses, and makes me even more excited for Episode 8. This movie was just a ton of fun. One of the best theater experiences I've had all year, just a blast. So much fun seeing these characters again. Harrison Ford acting like he cared, which he hasn't done in a while in a movie, and just having a blast was so much fun. He was Han Solo. There was at no point in this movie where I was just like, yeah, I'm just watching Harrison Ford act. I was watching Han Solo on screen, and that was amazing. A lot of great dramatic moments in this movie. One extremely heartbreaking scene in there that just, whenever I think about it, I just go, oh, I just get sad. It's Star Wars. There's not a whole lot to say because everybody's seen this movie, and it worked. And that's all we could have asked for. I loved it. Even with the minor flaws of it taking some plot elements from the previous movies, that doesn't matter because we got Star Wars back. And number 1. This has never happened to me before, where there's a movie that I'm insanely hyped for, then I see it, and it actually exceeds my expectations. And that happened with Mad Max Fury Road. My God, this movie is an action masterpiece. On all levels, this movie was great. Sure, it didn't have a whole lot of story, but that's not what this movie was about. That's not the purpose of this film, so that's not a complaint you can really have with it. If this movie was trying to be a dramatic, story-driven movie and this is what we got, then yeah, you should be disappointed, but that's not the point of this. George Miller shows us that he is a master at action. At 70 years old, he makes this movie, which is just insane. And he is such a great visual storyteller. That's the best thing about this movie, is it's so visually driven that with little dialogue, you understand everything that's going on. You understand the setting. You understand the characters with so little dialogue. And that's just amazing. It's something you don't get to see as much in movies nowadays. And the practical effects. Yeah, there was a lot of CGI and a lot of CGI enhancement, but the practical stunts, the real cars crashing and exploding, was mind-blowing. The guitar guy is just, I love that character. This movie created a world that is so unique that it's not just your typical post-apocalyptic wasteland, but it's its own unique world, and I love that. I love the design of everything. Everything about this movie is unique, and I love it so much. It's such an amazing film that everything about it works, and I was not expecting it to be as good as it could have been. This movie easily could have been a disaster with its production troubles, the fact that it took so many years to make, the fact that this movie was supposed to be made in the early 2000s with Mel Gibson, and we didn't get it until 2015, is just a testament to how great of a filmmaker George Miller is, that just everything worked. Just an amazing film and easily my favorite of the year. So that's my list of my favorite films of 2015. I'm really looking forward to 2016, which is going to have a ton of big movies coming out that I'm really looking forward to, and I just can't wait for all that stuff to come. So that's about it for now, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.